Hey guys, welcome to another video from eWaste Profits. In today's video, I wanted to talk about two big Wi-Fi issues that I had and how the UniFi access points fixed my problem. Now, I had been having this problem for quite some time, and the main reason for this video is to help people because I had this particular problem I was trying to fix for almost 2 years, and I was trying to buy different types of hardware to fix this particular issue, and I'm hoping that this will help you fix your whatever problems that you might be having that are related to this. Now, this is not a review of UniFi products. This is not a tutorial. You can find plenty of videos of that on YouTube. So this is really just to talk about these two specific problems and the three cons that I would say are of a mesh system versus a UniFi access point setup. Okay, so the first problem that I had was Wi-Fi calls. Okay, now keep in mind I had a regular Wi-Fi router and an access point here in my garage, and there's probably several walls or structures in between, and I was constantly walking back and forth in between a regular Wi-Fi router in my office and the access point in my garage. So there were two separate Wi-Fi networks, so to speak. So with Google Wi-Fi voice calls or Google Voice calls, I would have a call in my office and I would get a question where a customer would want to know if I had something in stock, or they had a question about a product I was selling. So I would have to go out to the garage while I was on the phone. And while I was on the phone, I would go from one Wi-Fi, which was the main Wi-Fi, to the edge of the Wi-Fi and then connect to the new Wi-Fi access point, the access point in my garage. Now, the access point in my garage was just a standard home Wi-Fi. I'll show you a picture of it. It's just, Netgear sells them. They're just basic repeaters or access points. So what I would be doing is I would be on the call going from my office to the garage, and when it connected to the access point in my garage, the call would disconnect. All the time, it would always happen. And it would also happen vice versa. If I was connected in my garage and I was on a call and I went into my office, the call would disconnect. Very frustrating for me, and I tried to fix this problem in numerous ways. I tried to name both networks the same, thinking that that would fix it. I tried to name each network different, thinking that that was a problem. I tried to look on apps on my phone. That didn't fix it. And I found that the UniFi access point, and it doesn't really matter the model, it's really just how these things work, has a handoff feature. So when you go from access point 1 to 2 to 3 and so on, it'll hand off the connection seamlessly without any interruption. And so that might not normally be a big deal, but when you're on a phone call that's Wi-Fi based, that's a big deal, and if there's any hiccups, it'll drop the call. So that was one huge thing that I was able to fix with the Wi-Fi access points. So if you're wondering what phone I have, it's a Galaxy S10e, and I originally had thought that the whole Wi-Fi voice issue was this particular phone. I don't know if other phones can handle it better, like the iPhones, but in the end, handling the connection on the network really was the solution. So problem number 2 was connection issues. Now, connection issues for me were I would be connected to the garage Wi-Fi, and then I would go into my office and the phone would just finally disconnect from the garage Wi-Fi and never reconnect to the office, even though I was sitting right next to the router. And the most frustrating thing about it was the only way to fix it was to turn the Wi-Fi off on my phone and then wait a few seconds and then turn it back on. And I would probably have to do this several times a day, because it would just constantly, I would just look at my phone and the connection would be on cell phone data, which was just annoying because I had all sorts of apps and stuff that use Wi-Fi, and it was just a mess. So the way in which the UniFi fixes that, or basically handles that in a better way than having two separate Wi-Fi networks, is when you have several of these access points, they basically manage the device's connection as opposed to the device trying to manage whatever connection it has. And by that I mean the device, I'm sorry, not the device, the UniFi system will decide which access point is the best for that particular device, depending on its proximity from the device, and it also manages the quality of service of all of the devices, which was pretty neat because it was something I never really saw in the regular router. In the regular router, like a Netgear or a TP-Link router, is you just see that the device is connected, and that's pretty much it. Whereas on the UniFi system, you can actually see the quality of the connection at a percentage level over time for that particular device. Pretty much fixed my problem. I'm always connected no matter what, where I am on my property. I was thinking of getting a mesh Wi-Fi system originally, mainly because I thought a mesh system would be easier to set up. Maybe it is. I never really thought about access points in the beginning. But what I did was I was talking to an IT group on Facebook and found that this was a better solution overall. And one of the cons when I was looking at the Wi-Fi mesh systems was the limited in terms of upgradability. And upgradability meaning if I wanted to add a different type of access point to an existing mesh system, there's not really a whole lot of options. And options meaning there's no outdoor access points, long-range access points, things of that nature. Now, when you compare that with the UniFi system, 2 years from now, if I get a good price on a Wi-Fi AX access point, I could easily adopt the new access point onto my network, and then once it's set up, just decommission the old access points, and I'm done. And then a few years after that, I can do the same thing if they have a newer Wi-Fi standard available. I thought that was kind of cool because this way I don't have to reset up a whole new system every few years, because it's just frustrating having to add a whole new system, learn about that system and all that stuff, whereas on the UniFi system, it's already set up. I'm just adding a new device at that point, which literally takes only a few minutes to set up. And the third really was functionality. When you talk about a lot of these mesh systems, some systems have good reviews, some systems have so-so reviews, and some have good reviews. And when you look at the overall functionality, a lot of it's a home-based kind of lower grade functionality, whereas on these UniFi systems you have a whole bunch of functionality that you can access with the UniFy CloudKey interface. You know, you have a lot of cool things that you can check. Like I said, the quality of the connection of your devices, and you can see all sorts of graphs and charts on all of the connections, so you can identify any kind of issues that you might be having. I didn't even have that kind of functionality with some of the regular routers and systems that I've seen and used. it just isn't there. So I thought that was kind of cool. So overall, I believe you can get some of these older Wi-Fi AC Pro access points on the used market, like eBay, for usually about 80 bucks, give or take. Highly recommend it. I got the CloudKey because I kind of got it as a package, and this is basically the interface that allows you to manage all of the devices. You don't necessarily have to have this. You can just use a spare computer or any computer that's on your network, and you can install the CloudKey software and then access all your hardware and configure everything, which I thought was another benefit, because you don't have to buy this particular piece of hardware. It's not required. You could just use any cheap computer. And so if you have some of these types of problems, you know, if you have a large property where you want a mix of different access points within your property, where you have faster access points in your house and then long range, lower speed access points in your backyard or back parts of your property, I would highly recommend taking a look at the UniFi system, because it might be a much better, more robust system than just a typical mesh Wi-Fi network system. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did like the video, please give me a like, and if there's something that you think I forgot, just leave a comment. You know, I'm always interested in hearing about things that I may have forgotten about these types of systems. I am by no means an expert. I'm just talking about these problems and how I fix them, so that you don't have to make the same mistakes that I made. So thanks, guys.